Hey everybody, good morning. This is Robert Wolf with the Heartland Report. And I want to talk today a little bit about the changing landscape in American agriculture. You know, I got to say, I do meetings with large groups, small groups, talk to a lot of people, got a lot of clients in the agriculture industry. And I get asked fairly often, you know, Bob, because that's if you know me, if you're friends with me, that's what you call me. Bob, what are the biggest issues impacting American agriculture today and in the future? And sure, you could pick so many topics. There's trade, there's regulation, there's the environmental pressures, and the everyday economics that make farming feel like you're up on a tightrope, flanked by life in the funeral pyre. Thank you, Mr. Leon Russell. If you don't know him, check him out. Uh, weird characters, but so were all of them at the time. Him, Joe Cocker, Mad Dogs, and Englishmen tour. But back to the subject. Uh, so, but above that, there's another issue nobody really wants to say out loud, and it is the prevailing mindset that can't or won't catch up with contemporary reality. And let me give you an example. I spoke a few weekends ago. Great crowd, salt of the earth people, but I looked out over the room and, it hit me the way it kind of always does. And it's that agriculture's getting older and older. It's getting stuck. That's not a dig. I'm an old guy too, okay? So make no mistake about it. It's not a dig. I'm an old guy too. It's just the reality. With the average American farmer being 59 years old, slightly older than me, uh, we've been repeating that stat for so long. It's practically tattooed into our brains. Um, so, but it really isn't about the age. It's about the deeply rooted belief that the future will look like the past. And on some level, we all know that's not true. But we spend a lot of time and a lot of effort to try and kind of keep it the same or to make that be true. Uh, you know, some folks still believe it's 1974 and old Earl Butz, the Secretary of Agriculture, under Nixon, is still up at the podium saying, "Get big or get out. Plant fence row to fence row. Growing population, we're going to need to feed the world." And for decades, that became the gospel of American agriculture. And we followed it. It worked for a while, but not perfectly. It's definitely had its shaky moments. So we changed, adapted, innovated, and we became the leaders in the world of agriculture. We supplied food for the world. But something happened over the next 50 years. Farms got bigger, then bigger again. Then they started specializing. We built an agricultural system of massive operations. Corn and soybean giants stretching across counties, cattle operations measured in thousands instead of hundreds, dairy farms consolidated to a handful of regional mega producers. And while those large operations grew, the small diversified family farms, the ones with a little of everything, cattle, hogs, row crops, hay, garden big enough to feed 10 families, they disappeared. Not slowly, but they disappeared. We lost 70% in some regions, half a century of consolidation wasn't an accident. It was policy. It was economic pressure. It was cultural drumbeat of get big or get out. Now, the modern reality has a twist. The very model that Earl Butz pushed in the 1970s is now colliding with the global marketplace that no longer behaves the way it used to. Productivity keeps climbing 3, 5, 7% a year. Demand? Maybe only 1 or 2% a year. And population growth is stagnating. China actually is losing people. It's not continuing to grow. India's slowed down. A lot of the other countries have slowed down too. The idea that we're going to be at 9 billion might not be a very accurate assumption. So we're not feeding the world on the brink of starvation anymore. We're managing a world that's oversupplied. That's a completely different problem. You know, do we change, adapt, and lead? Or do we sit back and let others take control? I think it's best for our future, for the next generation, if we make some changes, we adapt, and we continue to lead. At least that's my way of thinking. Again, I'm just a fractional CFO who helps small and mid-sized farms manage their money and manage their expenses and increase their revenue. But what do I know? So, you know, the mindset's got to change. And yet, you know, I'm still looking out at the audience. Good people, hardworking people who believe the future will be saved with one more pivot put in the ground, or one more planting, or one more expansion of acres. But that's not where we're headed. So when you ask me what the biggest threat to the future of American agriculture is, well, entrenchment in a system that no longer exists, in a market that no longer rewards size alone. Now, here's the part some folks won't like, but it's needed to be said. And that's, maybe the era of get big or get out is ending. It's coming to an end. Maybe the next 50 years won't look like anything like the last 50 years. Maybe, just maybe, it's time for something to look a lot more like the farms we lost. Smaller, diversified operations, local and regional food systems, sustainable production that matches the real demand. Value-added crops instead of volume strategies. Not because it's nostalgic, but because it might be what the market actually is calling for. You know, so the truth is this. We're not going to see exploding demand. There's no country that's going to have such a rapid rise in population that the demand's going to increase. We're not going to find another China to soak up the unlimited surplus. We're not going back to the 1970s, no matter how hard we plant fence row to fence row. So it's time to rethink. It's time to rebuild and reimagine what American agriculture can be. Because we're not just competing against our neighbor down the road. We're competing against Brazil and Argentina. And we're going to be competing with countries in Africa as investments are made to increase their agricultural production. So because the farm that survive the next decade won't be the ones that stayed the same. They'll be the ones that adapted to the world that is, not the world that it used to be. I am going to leave with a few more words from Leon Russell and his song, The Tightrope. It's a circus game with you and me. I'm up on the tightrope. One side's hate and the other's hope. So I'm Robert Wolf with the Heartland Report, and the future requires change, and change requires hope. So you have a good day. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me. Like, subscribe, listen to the full. If you see this on a short, listen to the full. Get all the context. And again, whether you live in a rural area or an urban area, we're all neighbors. We don't have to always agree on everything, but in the long run, we should be working for what's best for all of us. So, all right. You have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.